Good morning, everyone. Please take your seats.
Remember those times. Tyler, are you next to me? Okay, cool. You get sworn in time tomorrow. Next day, swearing in.
Good morning. Wow, that was an underwhelming good morning. Yeah, let us, good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you all to the 5th anniversary of this Trinidad, Las Animas County Legislative Roundtable discussion. First of all, I want to thank Trinidad State for providing the venue, Trinidad State IT for providing all the support systems. My name is Felix Lopez, County Commissioner with Las Animas County. What an honor and what a privilege to be here together. One of the most important things that we'll be speaking about today and hearing from all the speakers is the challenges that we face in rural Colorado. And not only rural Colorado, but rural America. Legislation from Denver and Washington have impacted counties of all sizes. And one of the things that we're dealing with is unfunded mandates. Now the opportunity for us is to discuss and dialogue, how do we manage these unfunded mandates? And how do we come together to actually comply with them? And that is one of the opportunities that we have in front of us today. 5 years ago or so, Mayor Rico began this conversation. And in collaboration and partnership with Las Animas County, we thank the city of Trinidad for inviting us to the table. And as you know, from one year to the next, we alternate. The presenters will always bring information that is pertinent from Denver to us and from us to Denver. And one of the most important points that we need to highlight today is that we have elected officials at the city level, at the county level, at the state level and federal level that are represented here today. So anything that is impacting Las Animas County and or Trinidad or Southern Colorado, we have a liaison that hears the voice of those of us that are here on the ground. I want to take an opportunity to introduce the participants, and I'm going to ask you to hold your applause. And there is all of you dignitaries that are here in the audience. Thank you so much for being here with us. And I want to thank those of you that travel far to be here in Las Animas County. Oftentimes, as I just completed my presidency of Colorado counties, I've always said, greetings from the best county in the state of Colorado, where the groundwork begins and when all of us get shoulder to shoulder and get it done. And that's what we are doing here today. One of the big points of today's presentation is to hear from industry leaders, elected leaders, and opportunities and challenges. So in a sense, we're here today to work together to see how to, when to, and where to make our comments be accessible. So let me begin by introducing the head table. Ms. Kim Lucero, representing Mount St. Raphael Hospital. Tara Marshall, DOLA. And my sincere apologies, we have our, I believe is Mr. Mike Beasley, lobbyist for the city of Trinidad. House District 47, Representative-elect, Mr. Ty Winter. We have a Representative Renee Martinez with Senator Bennett. We have Antonio Huerta, from representative from Senator Hickenlooper. We have Kathy Garcia, representing Congressional District 3, Lauren Boebert. We have Trinidad's mayor, Mr. Phil Rico. And then around the room, I'm going to ask my fellow commissioners, which is an honor to work with these two. What a team, Team Las Animas County and the entire team from Las Animas County. I want you to please stand and be recognized for the work that we are all doing in Las Animas County. Commissioner Tony Haas, Commissioner Luis Lopez, our attorney, Pam Nelson. We have Christy Coberly, we have Pam Lucero, and we have Brandy Bowman. Thank you so much. And let me go around the room. We have Councilwoman Erin Ogletree. We have Councilman. We have Mr. Thurman, representative from the chamber. Jerry, college representatives. We have from our industry. Oh, and then Councilman Eli DiBono, representative from Trinidad Community Foundation. We have Lisa, and by the way, also from the Trinidad Community Foundation, we have Mr. Lou Simpleman, and I'd be remiss if I don't mention my fellow County Assessor, Jody Amaro.
We also have Newman Thurman as our council person.
Yes, anyone that I have missed, we have representatives from the mine, past County Commissioner Jim Montoya. All of you, welcome, 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 and I apologize if I didn't mention one of you. I also want to thank the press for being here today. We have the Word from the Journal, the Trinidad Chronicle News, and we have, of course, Mr. Murphy as well representing here the press. So today, let me take an opportunity once again to ask all of us to welcome all the representatives from the mine. John, we have Evergreen Natural Resources, Mark Sexton, Rodney, all of you, thank you so much. We have representatives from the Veterans Council, and with this, the rules of engagement. Please, let's welcome all of you. Thank you so much. The kind of a footnote that I want to put in here. We have appropriated 5 or so minutes to each one of the presenters, and we're going to see if we can get an opportunity to have questions at the end of it. So there is cards on your tables to write your questions, submit them, and certainly we are going to try to accommodate all the questions that we have and respond to anything that you might have in your mind. And at the end of it, if you have an opportunity, please ask pertinent questions to the local economy, to the local community. That would be very much appreciated. Today's timekeeper is going to be Mr. Phil Dorenkamp with Las Animas County, and he's also the county administrator. I don't want to be remiss in introducing him as well. One of the most important things that we need to remember here is that this is Team Trinidad, Las Animas County. We need to work together because the challenges are so many that communication is so imperative and important that if we don't, we are going to be left behind. So having said all that, I want to put a footnote, just a very small footnote. We have been receiving a lot of inquiries at the county regarding this no more plastic bags at the local supermarkets. And the community seems to think that it was the county and or the city that implemented this new regulation. And so I just want to put that footnote on clarification that indeed it was not. This came out of the Plastic Pollution Reduction Act, House Bill 21-1162, that was enacted by the legislature, the Colorado legislature, and signed by the governor of Colorado. But without going too much into the how-to, this is nothing that the city of Trinidad and or Las Animas County did to implement this. So I just need to take that because yesterday I got so many phone calls on that. I think our county commissioners, we all received a lot of phone calls thinking that this was an initiative that the county was putting forward without putting it to the vote of the people. So I think it's imperative and important to recognize that. So it gives me great pleasure today to invite my fellow commissioner, Tony Haas, Las Animas County Commissioner, to come and give us, please rise for an invocation and a pledge of allegiance.
Thank you, sir, and what an honor to be here. If you all bow your heads, please. We're going to do the invocation first. Dear Lord, as we begin this meeting, we want to give honor to you. Thank you, God, for the time we have today to discuss issues important to our county and community. May you bless each person who took the time to gather here today, and let your hand of protection be on them throughout the rest of the week. Let the discussions had here today come to fruition, and let it all be to your glory. Help us each to do our parts to bring the ideas discussed to life. All these things we ask in your heavenly name. Amen. Colonel Lou Simpleman, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. I want to welcome Trinidad State's President, Dr. Rhonda Edwards, to give us a welcome and an update from Trinidad State. Dr. Edwards.
Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure, as always, to welcome you to Trinidad State College. And this morning, I bring good news regarding our enrollments for spring semester. As of today, we are up about 5.5% over where we were last year at this time, which is really great news considering we were down about 11% overall during the pandemic years. So it feels like we're beginning to recover some of those losses. One note, though, that I should mention is the majority of the growth that we're seeing right now is from our Second Chance Pell program, which is our prison education program. And so it's not necessarily like we're seeing a lot of students returning to college from the community. We need to do a better job getting our young kids back engaged in college, getting adults coming back to college. However, it is still an increase, and it's badly needed, and it's important for the health of the college, so we'll take it. And it's also important to our region. The prison education program is of growing importance to the state. We likely are going to be seeing legislation coming forward this year to support prison education. I was talking to our new representative in Alamosa, Matthew Martinez, just before the holidays, and he indicated that he's planning to sponsor legislation that will support prison education. This is good for the college because we were one of the first providers in the state. For the past couple of years, we've been the only provider in the state that's been authorized to offer Second Chance Pell. So we're really in a good position to expand that. We've already expanded from about 7 to 14 facilities throughout the state of Colorado. And it helps to reduce recidivism statewide. So it's an important program for the college as well as for the state. A couple of exciting developments for this year are going to be our capital improvements. So very soon, you're going to start seeing some construction projects on campus. You'll start to see the library and the museum renovation get underway, as well as the renovation of Romero Residence Hall. So you may recall we received $7.1 million in funding from the legislature for our library renovation. And then we've been able to pull together another $600,000 from various grants and from a private donor. So that additional money that we've secured is going to enable us to actually complete most of the goals of the library renovation in spite of the price escalation that we've seen during the 2 years since the funding was appropriated. We're not going to be able to accomplish everything that was in the original plan, but we're going to be able to accomplish most of it. With Romero Residence Hall, you may be aware that residence halls are not eligible for state funding. So we're going to be using $2.1 million in federal COVID relief dollars, plus the proceeds from the President's House, plus a $2 million loan from the CCCS System Office Reserves that was just approved in December. in order to complete the renovation of Romero Residence Hall. So that's going to be about a $4.6 million project in total. While that's only one of our 4 residence halls, we're really excited about being able to complete the renovation because our dorms are very old. They were built in 1960 and have never been renovated. So both the library and the residence hall projects are scheduled to be completed by the start of fall semester 2024. And I can tell you that it's just been so long since we've had major construction projects going on this campus that people are actually excited about the pending inconveniences of noise and dust and scaffolding and moving offices around and moving classrooms around, because we know it's going to be worth it to be able to have some updated and more modern facilities for our students. Lastly, a couple of programmatic updates. You may be aware that last year we cut a number of programs that have been struggling with enrollment, and so now we're going into a new year with a stronger set of programs that are aligned with the needs of our workforce. So we have fully enrolled, as in as many students as we can handle in nursing, teacher education, automotive, welding, line tech, and gunsmithing. The programs that are not fully enrolled, but which we're trying to grow, are in business, computer information systems, and the arts, and also in construction. So you may be aware that we have a rather large grant, $1.66 million from the AG's office for our construction trades program. We just received another $1.7 million from the AG's office to expand that program to the Valley campus. So we need more students in our construction program. If you know of anyone who's interested in that field of study, we'd be happy to have them. We're also part of 2 Colorado Opportunity Now grant proposals. This is the $85 million in funding that came through House Bill 1350 in the last legislative session, and it's being allocated through a grant program called Colorado Opportunity Now. We're participating in a proposal in San Luis Valley around healthcare, and then one in Trinidad in cooperation with the school district BOCES, and that one is around computer information systems. So in summary, we're trying to capitalize on every opportunity we can to serve our students and our communities. And I would just like to say again, thank you for being here, and I look forward to hearing all the updates from the leaders in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you so much, President Epper. I want to, at this point in time, remind everyone that we are going to try to keep the presentations to 5 minutes. I know this is, we have a lot of information to share, but we also have a lot of presenters, and we want to leave a little bit of time at the end for Q&A. So now, it is my pleasure and my honor to invite the representative from the United States, Senator Michael Bennett's office, Ms. Renee Martinez.
Well, thank you for having me today. Oh, I do.
Please welcome her, please.
Hot seat, huh?
It's the hot seat with the Madam.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Renee Martinez. I work out of the Pueblo office, and this is part of my territory. I've been on the job for less than a year, but very happy to be here this morning. As many of you may know, Senator Bennett was sworn in yesterday, and we're ready to work for the good people of Colorado for the next 6 years. One of the things that we're anticipating again this year is congressionally directed spending. There were some applications from this area last year that were unsuccessful, but I hope that you will resubmit those for this round. There are other opportunities for funding through the federal government, and we're here to support you, be that in the way of letters of support. If you do have that need, please reach out to me and I can instruct you into the process for that. One of the things I'd like to mention of success in this area is the eyeglass program for veterans at Fort Wooten. That was a program that looked like it was going to go away this past fall. And many of our staff members worked with the VA out of Colorado Springs to get that reinstated, and so that the veterans can go to Fort Wooten, get their fitting, and get their eyeglasses ordered from there and not have to go through all of the red tape. I don't want to miss anything. So the senators' committee assignments are the same as last year, which is Ag Committee, and we would like to encourage those of you who are farmers to submit your ideas to the Farm Bill legislation. We had many listening sessions this past spring and summer, and we would very much like to hear your ideas on the Farm Bill. Let's see what else. So that besides the Ag Committee, the senator serves on Forestry, where he's the chair of the subcommittee, Finance and Intelligence Committees. And those are my 5-minute updates. Thank you for your attention.
The next presenter is from the United States Senator's Office, John Hickenlooper, Mr. Antonio Huerta. Please help me welcome Antonio Huerta.
Recording in progress.
Oh, great. Hello, everybody. My name is Antonio Huerta, and I serve Senator Hickenlooper in southern Colorado. So I have a southern central 12 counties. I had a colleague out sick the last couple months, so I had the pleasure of serving my hometown, which is in Grenada, Colorado. And even just earlier this year, I was able to bring the senator out to Trinidad, where we got to tour the new art space location, which he helped kind of facilitate when he was governor. And then we saw a couple different water projects, and Renee brought up the CDS, the Congressional Directed Spending kind of series that we've been working on. In the first year, we really got to learn about the different projects going on in Los Animas County, and then this last year we actually were able to get Trinidad, the city of Trinidad, an award of I think a little bit over $1.1 million for water infrastructure projects. Now, water is a big deal in Colorado. The senator knows water is a big deal, specifically in southern Colorado, so we wanted to make sure we were able to help push some sort of projects for the community. Speaking of committees, we are right now, we're on the same committees as last year. We are on the Commerce Committee, Science and Transportation, where he's the chairman of Science and Space. So U.S. Spacecom, a lot of kind of space track, a lot of things that are kind of going on above our heads is something that he had kind of ownership over this chairmanship. And then we're on the Committee of Energy and Natural Resources, so you're going to hear ENR, the ENR committee regularly. So it's kind of the direct counterpart of the Ag Committee. So combined, we have energy, water, and then agriculture within the U.S. Senate. So Renee and I would be perfect people to reach out to, specifically for issues in our area. And then also, I know we had a health professional here. He's on the Committee of Health, Education, Labor, and Pension. So health would be with Dr. Epper, a lot of the higher ed, most of the higher ed institutions, health institutions, and then labor and pension. And then finally, the Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship. As you know, he's a former brewer, so perfect committee for him to be on. I think the kind of last note that I'd love to continue to have a conversation on is he, as governor, they had a Western Governors Caucus. He, in the Senate, decided to convene almost the exact same caucus, but as U.S. senators, something that had not happened in years prior. So I think in the first meeting, he had about 24 different senators. Only one staffer per senator was able to join the meeting, but they did talk a lot about Western water. And you've seen a lot about the Colorado River, we have the Republican River, we have the Rio Grande. There's just been a lot of issues within our water. So that has been priority number one. So last time we were here, he told me, bring me back. So in the future, if there's anything that we need to work on, love to bring him back here. Thank you.
The next speaker is United States Representative Lauren Boebert. Kathy Garcia on behalf of CD3. Welcome, Kathy.
I'm Kathy Garcia. I'm the Southern Colorado Regional Director for Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. And I want to thank you and the city and the county very much for the invitation to be here today. Really appreciate that. I would suggest that you should have one probably in the fall prior to the new legislative year coming up, so that you can talk about legislation that probably should be introduced and those kinds of things. So that's just a suggestion for you in the future. I'd like to remind everyone what congressional offices do. We are liaison with the federal agencies to assist constituents. So if you have a constituent that is having a problem with Social Security, Veterans Administration, Medicare, Medicaid, those kinds of issues, you can send them to our offices. We do casework, and we will follow up with those federal agencies to help the constituent. We also do congratulatory letters for distinctive awards, milestones, retirements, those kinds of things. You can order flags through our offices, regular flags, or those flown over the Capitol. Make sure you order those in plenty of time. Give us several weeks. Maybe you want a flag flown over the Capitol on your birthday. That's an idea for a present. Anyway, letters of support for federal grants. We can give you a letter of support. We can also research any legislation that you are looking at, or you can visit congress.gov for that legislation. We visit also city council meetings, county commissioner meetings, and other organizations to see what's happening in the community, to see where we can fit in to help those communities and those organizations. The 3rd Congressional District consists of 47 and a little bit more percentage of the state of Colorado, so we drive a lot. I have 10 counties and I drive quite a bit. Our office is located in Pueblo, and I travel to those 10 counties. The Congresswoman's committee priorities for the 118th Congress include, she wants to be a member of the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform and the House Committee on Natural Resources. In addition, she would like to be chairwoman of the House Committee on Natural Resources Oversight Subcommittee. Her priorities on rules include returning the House rules to the 114th Congress to have a functioning amendment process. Right now, it's not working. In the last 6 years, there have been 0 amendments to legislations permitted from rank and file members of Congress. She also wants to codify and prohibit earmarks. We want to make sure that requests for funds go through the Appropriations Committee so it's debated and figured out where the money really needs to go. We want to avoid bridges to nowhere. She wants to restore regular order. In other words, bills should be referred to the Committee of Jurisdiction. Sometimes bills that were introduced were never assigned to a committee. Bills should be considered in legislative hearings, undergo a markup process, ultimately come to the floor for debate, amendment, and passage. Also, under regular order, Congress passes a budget resolution with caps on spending, and then reviews each of those federal programs to see if it's working. Shockingly, regular order in the appropriations process has not been followed since 1994. Instead, every year, 2 weeks before Christmas, there's a crisis to fund the government. And a bill this past year passed with 4,000 pages.
and less than 12 hours to read. Now, the Congresswoman's legislative priorities include active forest management, wildfire prevention and community protection act. She also wants to secure the border act. We need to protect our border. I-70 detour act to study how you can get through I-70 if there's a major snowstorm or problems there. Western Water Security Act, that's a top district priority act. There are several other bills that she wants to work on, which also include single subject legislative bills instead of just a main title and 1,000 different subjects inside that bill. There are a couple of issues that we will be working on, and I'll be working on with the Senator's office, and that includes the Purgatory Water Conservancy District on the reservoir, and looking at Pinyon Canyon and the gas pipeline, removing that. Again, thank you very much for your time, and if you have any questions, you can catch me afterward.
Well, 5 minutes goes by really fast. Next, we have our State Senator, District 35, and Senator, I know you're going to be joining us via Zoom, and welcome to this Legislative Roundtable at Animas County, Trinidad. Welcome, Rob.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
So, I would like to have been there in person, but I had a appointment to take 2 bees to the locker plant, and as you people know, if you have those, they are gold, and you don't let them go, and you can't change them. So, I apologize for not being there, but I thank you for the option to participate remotely. As many of you know, but not all probably, I was a county commissioner for 6 years, and then I have been a state representative for 4 years, and now moved on to the state senate. Being from Cheyenne County, born and raised there on the same section I was born and raised on, agriculture, rural Colorado are near and dear to my heart. Every chance I get, I try to promote or protect those rural Colorado and agriculture. Going to be serving on the Ag and Natural Resources Committee, also on the Local Government and Housing Committee. The last 4 years in the House, I served on the Ag Committee. Where I still ranch, the 2 heifers I took to Locker Plant, they were my own calves, so it's good to be there, have the practical experience on that committee. And thankfully, there were some allowances made to keep that committee in the Senate not a supermajority committee. It's going to be 4 Democrats, 3 Republicans. So, that bodes real well for agriculture because that is truly a nonpartisan committee. And so I'm glad that President Fenberg was able to work out a deal to go ahead and let it be that way with the experience that the Republicans have for agriculture. So that's kind of exciting to go in. Kind of disappointing going into a super minority again, but the last 4 years I've served in a super minority, and I've still gotten 85% of my bills passed without having to compromise my principles. Kind of excited to go to work as the next state senator for Southeast Colorado through the redistricting. Cheyenne County got drawn into Southeast Colorado, and Cheyenne County is a good fit for Southeast Colorado. So just know that my focuses are always on rural Colorado agriculture, and then I also have done a lot of work with the Capitol around mental health, behavioral health. So I will keep my hand in that also, because we do have a huge need out in rural Colorado. We just have a shortage of professionals that do counseling and that sort of thing. There have been some things done since I've been there to kind of help rural Colorado in that respect, but there's a lot of work to do still. So with that, hopefully I'm under my 5 minutes and can let somebody else talk a little longer than I did.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it. Next, we have our state representative-elect from House District 47, Mr. Todd Winter. Welcome, Todd.
Good morning, everybody. It's sure good to be home in Los Animas County. It's always great seeing a lot of nice, friendly faces. I want to thank you all for your support. Just know that I look forward to representing House District 47 to the best of my ability. I put 25,000 miles on in this campaign, talking to the constituents of this district, talking to people in higher ed, talking to people in the energy industry. And their voice is loud and clear. There's issues that we're facing in rural Colorado and in rural America. And my job is to be a storyteller at the state capitol for you all. I've spoken with legislators across the aisle from the Metroplex, and I tried to explain to them how a lot of legislation that's passed at the state capitol, how it affects people outside of the vacuum in their purview. And they've been very open to having these discussions. A lot of them actually have committed to coming on a tour through rural Colorado once session is over, because I think the problem is a lot of them just don't understand how we live our life in these small towns, in these areas, and the challenges that we face every day. Some of the challenges that we face in rural Colorado are just as big or bigger than the challenges that they face in the urban centers. And getting our voice out there and explain to these people what challenges that we do face, I believe that's my job. I'm the closest to the people when it comes to state legislation, so just know that I work for you. I'm honored to represent these 9 counties, and I'm excited to be able to give a voice not only to the 9 counties, but to Los Animas County. It's been a while that somebody from Trinidad, Colorado has been a state representative. And I want to help this community grow along with the communities around the state. I look forward to working with Senator Pelton. I was also put on Agriculture Committee. I was put on Energy Committee. And I was also put on the Housing, Roads, and Local Government. And that kind of goes into what I look on doing at the state capitol. One thing I'm going to do is fight very hard for local control. Local counties, local municipalities, they know what is best for their constituents in their part of the state. And that's one thing that we need to make clear at the state capitol. Another thing I plan on doing is we're in a community that we've thrived off of energy production. And I want to hold the Office of Just Transition to what they said they're going to do for these counties where we're seeing the shutdowns when it comes to energy. I've been on tours of the coal mine. I've been on tours of the gas fields, and these are companies that are trying to work with and comply with some of the green energy things that are happening, but also keep their operations going. And not only that, those operations are the lifeblood to our tax base, not only when it comes to severance tax or taxes produced, but also keeping our people employed so they're not having to leave our communities and keeping families together. I'm going to protect and advocate for water in rural Colorado, for our farmers and ranchers, our egg producers. That's another industry that seems to come under attack a lot. I think that there's unintended consequences in a lot of bills that are passed, and my job is to bring those to light, make them think a little bit more. Small business and advocating for growth in our communities and bringing good, solid business opportunities to our communities are good as well, and I plan on doing that. Mental health, that's another important thing, but I think the thing that hurts us the most, and the commissioner touched on it, is unfunded mandates. We see a lot of unfunded mandates that come down on our counties from the state level, and then they leave us to handle those. You know the saying that the road to hell is paved in good intentions, and it's very true. And if you look at a lot of legislation that's passed, I believe that there's a lot of good intention, but they don't look at the unintended consequences. So I will not be able to stay today. I had meetings lined up from a month ago. So I just received my new email address. If you have any questions, please reach out. It's ty.winter.house@coleg.gov. And please, in any industry, education, if you want to have a talk, let's talk. I'll be busy for the next 4 months. I plan on doing a roundtable, 3 counties per weekend, and I will have another roundtable here. But I want to have these discussions. I've met with people across the aisle. I'm working on just a little quick note on what legislation I'm working on. I'm working on a business protection legislation. I live in a large district, and we need to make sure that our business owners are able to protect themselves. I'm working on some legislation that has to do with 1041 drilling permitting. I'm also working on some severance tax legislation, and what that is they keep talking about the impending shutdown of oil and gas. Well, I believe that our counties should be able to keep more severance tax to prepare for that shutdown. That way, when it does happen, we can put money into roads, hospitals, education, and infrastructure. If they want to take our industries, they need to make sure that we have some economic equity in these counties that's affecting. And I'm also looking at a few other pieces of legislation. So please, if you have any ideas, if you want to meet at any point, if you want to have any type of phone discussions, I plan on coming down and retouring the college. I haven't been to the college myself since I was a student at one time, but my office and my door is also open. Constituent services, I'm planning on taking all the 4-H kids from my district up to the Capitol on 4-H Day. So I'm reaching out and doing a lot of constituent things. As you guys could imagine, representing 9 counties and the interest in 9 counties, there's a lot of work to it. But just know that my office is always open, and this is a learning process. And if there's any information that you have for me, please reach out at any time. And I want to thank you all for having me today. And I look forward to representing Los Animas County.
One of the things that are near and dear to Los Animas County is veteran services. We have a couple of representatives here that are going to be talking to us, Mr. Ray Odom, and then you can introduce your person in there. One thing that we have in Los Animas County, and for a lot of us, you may not know, but veteran service officers are a lifeblood to our veterans in any region, community, and so on. So please help me welcome Mr. Ray Odom.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me here today to Rural Southern Colorado Legislative Roundtable. First, I want to thank each and every last one of you for their support since I've been in this job and the things that have been accomplished since I've been in this job. There's a lot of good things that have been happening since I've been the Veteran Service Officer. First and foremost was Raton Seabach down there. It did not close, and that was thanks to the support of all of our leaders and legislators, throughout our country. So thanks for that, and thanks for supporting that cause. So it's remained open. A lot of the veterans are still going down there to Raton and seeing that. Again, Renee spoke earlier about the VA eyeglasses. They still can be ordered at Fort Wooten, which is a great thing because that was about to get shut down, and it was because there was a problem with prescriptions. They didn't know how the process worked, so we rectified that situation, and now veterans are going back there, getting fitted for their eyeglasses, and they're being ordered there. Another thing is the VTF grant. If you don't know what that is a big thing here in our county, okay? It's the Veteran Trust Fund, okay? This is our 3rd year applying for that, and every year we had to ask for more money, and we have been getting it, from the state. And so that's a great thing, and we've been using that to help our veterans in Los Animas County when there are emergencies, if they can't pay their mortgage, or they have emergency with their tires or something like that. That's what that money is for. The money does not go to that individual. It goes to that business. Like, say for instance, again, if you have to, we have to pay their mortgage, it goes straight to that mortgage. It doesn't go to that individual. So that money, and they're vetted. We have a team that goes through and makes sure the money goes to who it's supposed to go to. So that's another great thing that's happening here in Los Animas County. And then third, the support of the PACT Act. That is a big thing here in our county, and I'm gonna tell you right now, we're gonna have veterans come and seeing us with these new presumptive issues that are out there. They're gonna file these claims, so my office is gonna be busy, really busy. And thank that I have a constituent right there, Errol Smith. If you don't mind, could you please stand up? He's my helper. He works with Mount Carmel. He's a coordinator, but he also has some of the same credentials that I have as far as vetting, finding out what veterans need and getting them over there to me. So under that PACT Act, it was passed August 10, 2022. So that's going to be a big thing that's coming down. So thanks for your support on that also. One thing I do want to say, we did have a meeting with New Mexico. I was unable to attend at their legislature. However, I asked Earl, I gave him the question, I said, Earl, could you go and represent, our county down there? Well, we did that, but we still haven't heard anything. So that's one of the things that I would like to have, if possible, is to bridge that gap because we fall within New Mexico Vision 22, and then we have Vision 19 that's here in Colorado. So we have a border that's stopping us to do a whole lot of things. It's really not stopping us, it's bridging that gap. And if we can get that done, that's going to be something I think we can, work together and fix that problem. So that's going to be the healthcare side of things, and that's the number one thing that veterans deal with is the healthcare side of things. So with that being said, I have some questions, and I'll bring those up at the end of the Q&A. But thank you again for giving me this opportunity to come and speak.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. And for those of you that do not know, he is located at the courthouse on the second floor. And just ask for Ray. Everybody knows him, so thank you so much. It gives me a great pleasure to invite Mr. Jeremy Macioni from the Trinidad Community Foundation that's going to be speaking up on a couple of grants that have been awarded to the community, as well as highlighting keeping Trinidad safe. Mr. Macioni, please welcome.
Good morning. I'm Jeremy Macioni. I'm with the Trinidad Community Foundation Board of Directors, the Youth Club of Trinidad Board of Directors Chair, and with Keep Trinidad Safe. But before I get into Keep Trinidad Safe, I'd like to introduce the Vice President of Trinidad Community Foundation, Lou Simpleman, to briefly talk about the history of House Bill 21-1215.
He told me I should have 60 seconds, so you guys have probably out here hardly. But let me give you a little bit of background. About a year and a half ago, through the efforts of Mayor Rico, a couple of Colorado senators, and representatives, a bill was passed, House Bill 21-1215. And what this did was it looked at a program that was going on in North Aurora, in southeast Colorado Springs, where they invested money to educate and change the environment to help people involved with the justice system. So they passed the law, and they wanted to see how well that could be done in a rural community. And Lisa and I, our president, Lisa Camarillo, and I looked at it, wrote a grant request, and we got the grant, about $341,000. Our responsibility as the Butte Foundation is to work with the Department of Local Affairs. And Tara, we love you guys. They're tremendous to work with. We partnered with the Latino Coalition, who had worked with North Aurora and Southeast Colorado Springs, and they're great partners, by the way. And then what we did is we held 5 community meetings in which we had over 30 people each time, and set the boundaries, which came out to be Los Angeles County, and the criteria. And this is the difference in this bill is they just didn't throw the money down and say, go do this, this, and this. What they said is the community has to decide what has to be done. We received a proposal from the youth club, Trinidad Youth Club, to manage the program, and that's what Jeremy's going to talk about. They're the ones that do the work. We work with the state and work with them as a partnership all along. I may mention that Dr. Epper, Trinidad State has a tremendous program going on with the prisons, and they actually had 2 prisoners refuse pardon this summer so they could continue and get their associate degree. So, it's a compliment to that. And we work together. We're working with the Rocky Mountain Microfinance. We have clients that we send to them, and it's a community effort. Jeremy?
Thank you, Lou, and thank you to Lou and Lisa and for their hard work that they did, and Chris Simpleman as well. They put a lot of hard work into this. Once we received the funds, we established about 15 or plus partners that are in the community that have existing programs. That way we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're utilizing what programs are already in existence, because there's some amazing programs that like Crossroads and Probation and others have already put in place, and so we want to utilize all those. We're not in competition. We want to work with everybody with those programs. So we developed that a partnership with 15 or plus, and hope to bring in more. So once we have that going, then we're able to put in place a case manager. We hired a case manager who developed an assessment tool. When we get referrals in from probation or self-referrals or from law enforcement or from the school districts, once we get them in, she'll bring them in and interview them, and based on the assessment, she'll see what programs they need and utilize them there. We did get a building, and now we have a place to facilitate those meetings and have facilitate our partners where they could come in and conduct possibly an AA meeting or any other programs that our partners are helping us with our referrals. So once we get those referrals in, we're able to see what programs they fit and what needs they have, and go from there. And then we developed a committee with also some of the partners and other community members in the community, to where we discuss each referral individually and see where we could go from there, what needs to change, and how to move forward into their own personal program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Machoni. I was remiss in not introducing those attending online. We have District Attorney Henry Solano. We have from the Chamber of Commerce, Ms. Claudia Henny, Amy Rossetti, and then I see someone from the Health Department Hula program, City Manager, Mr. Steve Rucker, and I would imagine this is probably our City Attorney, Les. So welcome to all of you, and my apologies for not recognizing you earlier. So now let me invite someone that I know probably has everywhere she travels, she's going to be asked questions. So the newly elected or appointed CEO from Mount Redfield Hospital to give us an update of what's happening at the hospital. Welcome, Kim.
Well, good morning, and thank you, Felix, and thank you, everybody, for having me here today. It's truly a pleasure to be here today. As most healthcare organizations, we have our share of challenges the past couple of years. The pandemic has definitely created challenges for all industries, and especially the healthcare industry. We face declining reimbursement, workforce shortages, and we need to devise a plan to meet the behavioral health needs of our community. We have had, so we started a project about 5 years ago to expand about 36,000 square feet of the hospital. It was an aging facility. Most of you have probably been there. It was 50 years old. And so we replaced essentially about 90% of all the healthcare space that we provided direct patient care to. So patient care unit, imaging center, and our emergency department was all completely renovated. We opened that 2 years ago. That was actually kicked off, thank you, DOLA. We received a DOLA grant back in 2016 that kicked off that project. So that really helped us out a bunch. So I want to take you back, and our leadership team has done a lot of work in the past 5 years, and I want to give you kind of a snapshot of where we've been and kind of where we're going. So, I understand the complex dynamics facing healthcare, and I'm really focused and determined to ensure that the hospital and clinics are a model provider for that region. This past year, the hospital was named to the top 100 critical access hospitals. It's an annual recognition that honors outstanding performance among national rural hospitals on results from Rural Hospital Performance Index. This rating is only possible by extraordinary efforts of our physicians, our nursing teams, and our staff in their ongoing dedication to high-quality, personalized, and compassionate care. Along with the top 100 critical access hospitals, we were named 3 years in a row to the 5-star rating from the Center for Medicare and Medicaid. CMS assigns star ratings for more than 4,500 hospitals nationwide on their performance across 7 different quality measures, is how they measure that. This year, only 429 hospitals in the United States earned 5-star ratings. Mount San Rafael Hospital was one of 14 Colorado hospitals to receive that designation. We are among the elite and proud to earn this rating. The other hospitals, just to name a few, Vail Health Hospital in Vail, Colorado, Sky Ridge Medical Center in Lone Tree, Poudre Valley Hospital in Fort Collins, Medical Center of the Rockies in Loveland are just a few to name today. This past year, we have partnered with UC Health to provide expanded oncology services to our community, including chemotherapy infusions. Since April, we have assisted patients and their families and saving them more than 3,000 hours and 175,000 miles on the road, keeping them here for chemotherapy services and treatment and care local. Dr. Hoyer is an oncologist that comes from UC Health in Colorado Springs. He has local clinic hours here in Trinidad, and he oversees the overall care of those chemotherapy patients. We continue to provide 24/7 general surgery coverage to our community, and it is the 5th year that we offer orthopedics care for our community. One of our top priorities moving forward is recruitment for primary care and gynecology and women's health services. We continue to struggle with workforce, as all healthcare organizations do, and we are working diligent to retain those that we already have on our team while we work to enhance our provider mix and benefit our patients long term. We are working hard to provide the needed programs in our community while ensuring patients receive the critical care that they need right here at home. I look forward to building our existing legacy in this community, and I look forward to the service-focused future for all of our patients that we serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lucero. The next presenter, one of Southern Colorado favorites. She brings a bag of money with her everywhere she goes. Tara, on behalf of all of us here in Los Animas County, in all the rural communities, please pass on to Dola our greatest, most sincere appreciation for all the work that you all do in partnership and collaboration with us. Please help me welcome Ms. Tara Marshall.
Well, good morning. Hi, my name is Tara Marshall. It's a pleasure to be here with you today on behalf of DOLA. Thanks for including us in this roundtable. As the commissioner stated, one of our best known qualities is we do manage several large grant funds for the state of Colorado. Most recently, right before Christmas, we announced a couple of awards to Trinidad Ambulance District and to the county and to the city for work on the new ambulance building, the Fox Theater, and our county roads, our important county roads. In the past, we've also made investments at Trinidad State College through their theater program and the hospital, as Kim mentioned. We've also funding right now a planning grant for the COG, the Council of Governments. So as the Southeast Regional Manager, I work with 9 counties, 36 municipalities, and about 60 special districts throughout the Southeast. And Los Animas County is my home, so although I'm not allowed to say have a favorite, I will say that we definitely make sure that Los Animas County and those municipalities and special districts get those applications in. We've in the past funded Aguilar, we've funded Coatdale, and we funded Branson. So moving on from that, a couple of new grant programs that are opening up this next year. The Energy Mineral Impact, which is our most well-known program, will have 3 grant rounds of $20 million each this next year, and we'll work with our county commissioners and our city council to make sure that any projects that are of importance to them get put forward in those rounds. In addition, we're opening the Rural Economic Development Initiative grant in February, and that will have $780,000. It supports projects through local governments that create jobs. So right now we're working with Los Animas County to do a study on the airport and a potential industrial park there. So that might be a good fit. In the past year, we've supported Los Animas County and Trinidad in partnerships with Huerfano County and Walsenburg for the Rural Roadmap Program. That was federal funding that came to DOLA to be invested in economic development and recovery from the pandemic. We're also sponsoring the city in a planning grant for an improvement of land use codes to make housing more affordable. And housing is a big issue right now. It was at the legislature the past several years. Our Division of Housing will be managing approximately $10 million in grants and loans that can go to local governments, but also will be found to be accessed through private developers. This past year, we partnered with the Office of Economic Development and International Trade, specifically Colorado Creative Industries, and DOLA, my division, the Division of Local Government, partnered to invest $85 million in Colorado in the past 2 years in community revitalization grants. That program is closing down. We'll be awarding the last $3 million this month, but I bring it up because the jurisdiction after Denver that got the most investment was Trinidad. Trinidad received $9 million of the $85 million to support Space to Create, the Fox Theater, and the East Street School. So that was a huge success story. Hi, Data. That was a huge success story for the city of Trinidad and the developers that the city works with to get that kind of investment in. So DOLA will continue to work with your local governments. The reason that the DOLA programs are accessed through local governments is we want to make sure that your elected officials are deciding and creating their goals and their objectives, and that we're supporting those goals and objectives. In closing, I want to say that the Energy Mineral Impact Committee is the governor's appointed committee that sits within DOLA, and they will invest maybe approximately $120 million in local governments in Colorado in the next year. So on behalf of DOLA, we want to thank Commissioner Tony Haas for sitting on that committee. He's one of 6 appointed by the governor to sit on that committee along with state agencies, and I believe he's the first person from Los Animas County to ever sit. So thank you for that service. Representative Winter mentioned the severance tax. So he's right, Los Animas County does pay a lot of severance tax, but many of these projects I'm mentioning are that severance tax coming back to your local governments, and Tony and the other elected officials that sit on that committee make sure that that money is invested in areas where severance tax is paid. So it's always a pleasure to work with this community, and it's always an honor to be invited to this event. So thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Mr. Dorenkamp. I don't know if we have the South Central Council of Governments, Ms. Oliver, online.
I don't believe so, but I believe Lou Ray King was going to sub for her.
Oh, Ms. Lou Ray King. Please welcome Ms. Lou Ray King from South Central Council of Governments to give us an update.
Good morning. I bring you New Year's greetings from Jennifer Oliver, who unfortunately is in Nevada and could not join us today. So she asked me to come down and address a few issues. As many of you know, we work as a regional council of governments with Huerfano and Los Animas counties. But we work with many of these people here at the table, and also many of the county commissioners and city council people, to work toward bettering our communities. In that effort, we have worked last year in defining where we want to go as a Council of Governments. Our board, with the change of the new executive director, determined that we needed to look at strategic planning. So as Tara Marshall said, we did apply for some funding from DOLA, and we are going to be looking at a new strategic plan for the South Central Council of Governments. In that, we are going to be asking many of you to contribute to a survey and also input so that we can be sure that we structure ourselves to be a program and an agency that serves our communities. As Tara said, we've worked with DOLA this last year with the Roadmap to Recovery process. With our consultants and with many of you in the room, we identified several issues that we felt were very important to the success of our community and how we were going to come back from this COVID pandemic. We identified 3 areas: broadband, housing, and economic development. And in that effort, we worked with Downtown Colorado, Inc. and Bohannon Houston Consultants, and we worked together to devise a plan for how we will go forward on working on these projects. Phase 3 now begins in 2023 as we go out and we solicit funding for those projects to try to bring growth and improvement to our community. We are also working with OEdit on a grant navigator specialist position to assist the Council of Governments and regional agencies identify appropriate funds for projects. Jennifer has been working very hard on participating with the legislative stakeholder calls with the Colorado Broadband Office. The primary topic of discussion is the status of the 2005 initiative on Senate Bill 152. As you remember, Senate Bill 152 excluded local government from entering broadband markets, but much has changed since 2005. So she is working with this committee and moving forward on new language, and hopefully we'll get it discussed this year. Additionally, she has asked that I ask any of you, if you would like to participate in this broadband project, to contact her, and she will get you the information so that you can participate on these calls weekly and bring forward your ideas. Again, I would like to say most of you know the Council of Governments as the programs that we run in the Bi-County region. But we are much more than just the housing and the care services and the AAA programs, the early learning centers. We provide those services because at one point or another the community identified those as needs. And so we took those suggestions from the community and we ran with them and we built programs to provide those services to our communities. We are doing the same thing now as we look to the future and we do our strategic planning. We rely heavily on our board members. We have representation from the City Council and we have representation from the county commissioners. Currently, Commissioner Luis Lopez is on our board from Los Animas County, and then Aaron Williamson is on our board from the City of Trinidad. We look to those men and those representatives to help us design our programs and develop what is needed for our community. We also operate the Enterprise Zone programs through OEdit, through the Council of Governments, and if anyone is interested in more information on the Enterprise Zone projects, please contact me as I am handling that program currently. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. King. So now please help me welcome Evergreen Natural Resources CEO, Mr. Mark Sexton.
Well, Happy New Year, everyone. It's been an interesting time to be in the energy business, and you're going to hear from all about Los Animas County coal also in a moment, and anything that enhances the natural resources of the area and our ability to extracted in environmentally responsible ways is something that we, and I know the coal companies also pay a lot of attention to. And I think what's really important is that the recognition that Los Animas County and the energy extraction industry here, which is so important to the local economy, is different than almost everywhere else in the state. And I think we're seeing some recognition around the state and at the governor's office, and that's very much appreciated. And the very comments that Ty Winter brought up resonated quite a bit with us. We have quite a few challenges ahead of us here with continuing the energy extraction business. A little bit of history. Evergreen Resources, Inc. was a publicly traded company that first figured out how to get coal bed methane production economically out of the Raton Basin, and first wells were drilled as far back. Those first wells were drilled as far back as 1995 by Evergreen Resources, and we got first production out of this out of the basin here into the Pico-Wire lateral pipeline a year later in 1996. And at that point, what we did, we had given firm volume commitments to Colorado Interstate Gas and turned the pipeline around so that gas that was flowing from the Colorado Interstate, the CIG system to Trinidad, was now flowing from the west to the east. And so every molecule, whether you're buying it from Evergreen or one of the other operators in the basin, every molecule that's burned in the city of Trinidad comes from the canyons west of Trinidad here. And we're very proud of that. At the time, people said, well, how do we know you're going to be around long enough to, I said, well, why don't we just contract directly since the gas goes right by the city gate. And believe it or not, the question at the time, and this is 25 years ago, was, well, how do we know you're going to be here in 25 or 30 years? Well, here we are 25, 30 years down the road, and we're still going strong, and production is not as high as it was back in, I think the peak was reached around 2008, but there is still quite a bit of production coming out of the basin here, and which is, of course, an important part of the severance tax and ad valorem, tax revenue base for the county. We have this version of Evergreen as, again, a little history. The old Evergreen Resources Inc. merged into Pioneer Natural Resources back in 2004. And since then, we have, in about 2018, this version of Evergreen with the same management team, or very similar management team, went out and purchased the assets back from Pioneer when Pioneer was under pressure to sell all their assets outside of Midland and the Permian Basin. And they had known for quite some time that if they ever sold the Raton Basin assets that they acquired from the original Evergreen, I raised my hand and signaled for a fair catch and asked for a chance to get it back, and that worked out. And that was in 2018. When we first took it over, we had about 110 employees. Today we have close to 200. And this is during COVID. And this version of Evergreen was able to go out and not only not have massive layoffs or salary cutbacks like almost every other energy company in Colorado did during the COVID years. We were able to survive and keep going. We also came up with a new business model for how we would keep the field going. If Pioneer is a really, really good company, and I have a lot, and we're in the Pioneer room here, and I have a lot of respect for Pioneer, and I was on their board of directors for 5 years before they let me go off so I could go pursue other energy projects. But Pioneer had looked at the economics of getting gas out of the Raton Basin and said, this isn't working for us anymore. The costs are too high, and the price of natural gas was hugely depressed on the national market, and it did nothing but get lower and lower and lower until about 15, 16 months ago when it finally came back up
And people said, well, why is the price of natural gas coming up? I said, you mean, why is the price of natural gas coming up now? Because it's been in the toilet for many years. And when people would ask me to describe our business model and our business plan, I said, well, we've mapped it out and we've modeled it out, but I can almost hear the sound of the toilet flushing every time natural gas prices drop again, because it's simply not economic to keep running. And yet we found a way to do that. And I told our employees in 2020 that in January of 2020, I remember standing in front of everyone and saying, we're going to get through 2020, and if we do, we will be able to thrive by the end of 2023. And that is still a true statement. But then COVID hit, and it got even worse. So we had some tough times. And now that prices are back up a little bit, people can reinvest a little more. You'd say, well, these are great times, aren't they? And the answer is, gosh, I hope so. But we have still a lot of headwinds facing us. We are trying to work with the local governments, the city and the county, on the best way to make use of the beneficial use of produced water. We have a terrific asset that we're not allowed to utilize fully because it comes from an oil and gas well. It is legally or by statute classified as a waste product. Yet that very same quality water has been, the ranchers have been drinking it for generations. It's the same water, and their cattle and all the wildlife love it. And if you want to see how much the ranches in the area have proliferated when it comes to hunting, just see where all the wildlife gather. They gather right around those wells that are producing water as a byproduct. And my goal is to put every drop of usable water on the ground. And you say, why would you do that, Mark? And the answer is, in much the same way, that water doesn't make it to the Purgatory River. And, well, maybe not. But the water that comes in as rainwater does if that ground is already more saturated. So just like snowmaking works for the ski areas, you're not skiing on the snowmaking base, you're skiing on the very nice snow that naturally occurs as part of it. If you put produced water on the ground, you've got a lot more water that is available into the Purgatory River system and the Apishapa River system, because we are putting water there. And we are, by the way, working with the town of Aguilar to see if we can make some of that water used for them and for their city water requirements. And we're going to continue to work with the municipalities and the county to make this used. We've come up, so that you know what we're coming up with in the next year. We're trying to apply with the Oil and Gas Commission for the beneficial use of produced water for the county. Something as simple as putting that water on the roads. It's really good water, and it's really good for dust mitigation and control, but it has other advantages too. So I applaud the county getting after it, paying more attention, as Ty Winder was saying, to business protection for small companies. The 1041 drilling permits were specifically mentioned. I think that's a great idea. Los Animas County is not Denver, it's not Boulder, it's not the corridor in between that has come into a lot of conflict with homes in the oil and gas industry. This area works well between the communities and the industry, whether it's coal extraction or methane extraction. I want to let everybody know that water uses and issues are going to continue to be a top priority for us. Local rules and 1041 rules taking priority will be a top issue that we'll be working with the community. Want to see, the severance tax legislation that was mentioned, and everything going on with the DOLA and the governor's office is very much appreciated for prioritizing Trinidad and Los Animas County. We really appreciate the way this governor has prioritized this area, and we're doing everything we can to work with
with all of the energy agencies, the Oil and Gas Commission, the Department of Health, the Governor's Energy Office, DOLA, to continue to see this area gets its fair share and gets priority. And we very much appreciate the Governor paying attention to this area and also making sure that this area gets properly served. I want to emphasize, however, that Los Animas County has different characteristics and different needs than Denver and Boulder, and the increased regulations from oil and gas, quite honestly, that do make sense for Denver and Boulder in that corridor don't make sense for here, and it is holding up some of the things we can do to help the community. The produced water being a very good example of that. And finally, I want to compliment again the Governor's Office and DOLA for their prioritization in this area. I also want to compliment these existing commissioners, and I have worked with a lot of commissioners, and we can all say, well, I have a favorite commissioner, or I like the way this guy did things, but I have not seen a group of commissioners work so well together for Los Animas County as this current group. And I know you're term limited, so darn it, I'm really going to miss you guys at some point, but I've not seen a group of commissioners work this well together in the 25 years I've been trying to get things done here in Los Animas County. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sexton. And now it is my pleasure to invite a representative from the New Elk Mine, Mr. John Rumke, and I also want to recognize Ms. Kayla Torres that works with New Elk as well. Welcome, John.
My name is John Romke. I'm the CEO of Allegiance Coal, which is an Australian company, but our assets are actually in North America. So that's why I'm here today. I'm also the president of New Elk Coal Company. I'm responsible for our operations in North America, as well as the corporate operations back in Australia. I'm a coal miner way back. I left high school and went underground in Australia, in the south of Sydney. And that's where I developed my career, and then had a couple of stints overseas as well. So I've come here and moved to Trinidad in August, and based here because the New Elk Coal Company is actually our biggest asset and our biggest opportunity. So that's why Allegiance is here. We are a steel-making coal company. We want to focus on producing coal for the steel industry over the long term. And we've got 4 major assets in North America. New Elk Coal Company, of course, which this area knows very well. And we've got an open-cut coal mine in Alabama. And then 2 projects, a Short Creek Underground project in Alabama, and also another open-cut opportunity in British Columbia. So that's the nucleus of Allegiance Coal. New Elk Coal, of course, most people know, is an underground coal mine. It's 24 kilometres to the west of Trinidad. We've restarted that mine. It's an older mine, but we restarted it in spring 2021. And we've settled down to sustainable operations at the moment, but still focusing on growing our production footprint. We're not producing enough coal yet, and we need to grow, and we need to hire more people where we are. It's a long history in the Purgatory Valley, and the original mine was called the Allen Mine. It actually opened in 1951, so it goes back a lot earlier than the gas industry. But the gas industry and the coal industry are actually getting our resources from those same coal measures all the way down. And they do work complementary together. There's gas wells on our property, as there is underground openings in our property. Steel-making coal is very, very important for the industry and very, very, very important for the world, even in the renewable space. We've got to be able to make steel to build windmills and to build solar plants and to be part of that renewable energy industry as we move forward. So we don't see us phasing out in the future. We actually see us being relied on for not just in America but also the world in future renewable industry space. Did you know it actually takes 1,700 pounds of coal to make 1 tonne of steel? And 1 ton of steel will give you about 2/3 of a car. 2/3 of a car is actually the steel, and one windmill is 157 tons of steel into one of those modern windmills that you see when you drive up to Denver. So we can't avoid it. Steel's going to be with us a long time, and the coal required to make that steel is going to be here a long time. We're an underground mine. We're a rumour pillar system, so we're not a large, super large producer like a longwall operation. We're currently producing and transporting our coal to the Jansen yard just to the west of Trinidad, and that's where we load our coal onto trains and take them at the moment to the terminal in Mobile in Alabama, and that's where we export our coal over to Europe or to Asia as well, can also export from there. There are other ports we can also use, so we've also exported out of Mexico, which was where our first coal, when we restarted, actually went. We started in 2021, we had about 50 employees. We've built that up to about 125 workers at the moment, but we're really targeting about 190, 200 by the end of 2023 as we increase production. We continue to hire. We do hire locals, inexperienced. We've lost a lot of those mining skills in this area, of course, over the years as the mines went into care and maintenance and we're no longer producing. But we're reteaching a lot of local people. We call them green hats. They wear a green hat because they're inexperienced, and quite a few of our young locals are now becoming experienced miner, and they'll be trading for a black hat in the next couple of months, which is fantastic to see. But we are hiring people into the Trinidad area at the moment, and those people that we're targeting has really got those coal mining skills. We're hiring out of Wyoming, we're hiring out of Utah, we're hiring out of New Mexico, and the eastern states of Kentucky and West Virginia are also coming out and showing some interest, which is really good to see. We do believe that once we get to a stable production rate, there's opportunities to expand further, and the size of the lease area will give us potentially another 20-25 years of mining operations. Over those 25 years, the sort of economic benefits that are going to come to the area, $566 million worth of salaries to our employees, $122 million of revenue for the Colorado state and the severance taxes that we pay, $180 million in royalties to the state of Colorado for the royalties for the coal mine, $418 million in federal taxes over 25 years, assuming we do make a profit, of course. You've got to make a profit first to pay those sorts of taxes. And $65 million of utilities and working with our local providers. So with all that, we want to be part of the local community. We believe and honour the environment that we work in. It's really, really important that we look after the environment and we don't pollute the Purgatory Valley. So that's particularly important. We believe in the ability to give back to our community. We recently donated to the county for building a basketball court over at the fairground. Those sorts of things are important to us, and we're actually looking to partner with the State College in Trinidad in the future and try and align some relevant courses and some vocational courses. You mentioned diesel mechanics and transport. They're things that we use at the mine, that sort of equipment. So we want to look at opportunities for working with vacation work, working with potentially weekend work, and partnering with the State College to identify people who want to build a career in the coal mining industry or the energy industry going forward. Each year we've created a scholarship program for students graduating in the Los Animas County, and 3 students will be recognised each year, and that certainly happened this year, and Kayla organised that for us, which did a great job. A community legacy donation, which this year was the basketball court. That's going to be an annual event, and we're going to work with our commissioners and people in Trinidad to say, okay, what's the next one? Where are we going to be for 2023? We're really hopeful that 2023 is going to be an excellent year for us. The coal mining industry has got a resurgence in pricing. It's a bit like the gas industry Mark was talking about, and we need to take advantage of that and ride the wave with the recognition that coal is still an important source of energy and an important source of coal mining. So I really want to thank the commissioners for inviting us to speak today. It's great. We want to work together with the county and with the town of Trinidad. We have an office which Kayla mans at 209 East Main Street. Please feel free to call in. It's manned twice or 2 or 3 days a week. There'll be notices on the window, and come and have a talk to Kayla. Look us up on Facebook, look us up on LinkedIn. There's regular updates there, and also our website. And Kayla Torres is our community liaison officer, and we think she does a great job for us. So thanks very much, everyone. Thank you.
So very impressive. We are slightly behind schedule, 5 minutes, so that's not bad. Let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break. And at 11:05, we have someone that's going to be joining us virtually, so 5 minutes.
Recording stopped.
As soon as your alarm went down, it turned to 10 to 15.
I know. It's
all right. It's good.
But it's good.
Yeah, for sure. Every year it just gets better.
Debbie was trying to
fine with me. I won't say a word while it's still in process. I'll have Bryce please do. Plus the taxes that we pay, the lower property taxes, road vision part of the deal. It's not probably shakes out. Well, you got Heidi Williams. Sorry. She's already in. Sorry, come on. I'm not seeing that.
Pardon the interruption. Please go ahead and take your seats.
Recording in progress.
Thank you so much once again, and we are going to resume this roundtable. We appreciate every one of you being here. One of the footnotes I wanted to highlight when our DOLA representative came up here, before we introduce the next speaker, are the millions of dollars, and listening to CEO from Evergreen Natural Resources and our president from the New Elk Mine, the millions of dollars that are distributed to rural Colorado from DOLA are basically the taxes. That's just a really good clarification. The ad valorem taxes that are paid by these energy producing companies. And so in a sense, the money is produced here and is expatriated throughout the state of Colorado. But certainly we're fighting for what we believe is due to Las Animas County. So we appreciate their presentation, the clarification, and again, we're not going to say no to any funds, any grants, but definitely just a little footnote that our county and gas and oil producing counties and mine producing counties send these dollars to Denver to be distributed. And again, as Mr. Sexton mentioned, what an awesome opportunity to apply for those dollars back. But if we had a set amount, can you imagine how much more we can do? So anyway, that's one of the footnotes. Our next speaker is from the Attorney General's office, a friend of Las Animas County, and we have worked on the opioid settlement agreement that we have had. I want to highlight, before I introduce Heidi Williams, there is on Region 19, and I'm sure she's going to be touching on it, but one of the good points that I wanted to bring to all of us, that here in Region 19, the group that has been working on it for a couple of years, I'm honored to be part of that board, we identified that prevention and education should receive 30% of the total appropriation. In the total appropriation year one for the opioid settlement for Region 19 was $2.7 million. Of course, that's not going to happen every single year. We are right now working on the planning, but prevention and education, 30%, treatment, 30%, recovery, 20% of those funds, harm reduction, 10%, and criminal justice, 10%. And I have a document, if anyone is interested in receiving, that the 9 counties have worked in appropriating, and each one of those, when you take a look at the $2.7 million and you add up these counties, we feel that's of course never going to be sufficient enough to address all the challenges that we have with the opioid/behavioral challenges that we have in this area. So with that, I want to introduce the next speaker, and I believe Heidi is joining us. Yes, Heidi, great to see you there. From the Attorney General's office, we have Heidi Williams to give us an update on the opioid settlement and the opioid plans throughout the state of Colorado. And if you could, Heidi, highlight just a tad on what's happening as well in Region 19, because I do believe, humbly, we are leading when it comes to, on this region, working with all the planning and just the function of the Region 19 when it comes to all this. So Heidi, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. I do have slides, but it's not letting me share, so I'll just send those out to you, Commissioner, and you can share with the rest of the group.
We're going to try to see if we can allow the screen share one more time.
I can get it. It's letting me now, so this is great. Okay, awesome. Now you should be able to see my slides okay. All right, so just to kind of touch on the Commissioner's statements about how much money is coming. The good news is that, and you might have seen this in the news, we actually ended up settling with 5 more companies. So CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, Teva, and Allergan. So this is putting us up to $750 million for the state of Colorado. So $750 million. We're very excited about this. Of course, this won't come in over, right away. It'll come in over time. But this is something that's really helping these dollars to be sustainable so that we can continue to invest in programs like prevention education and other initiatives that you all have decided to take on. Just as a quick reminder, this is how all of the opioid settlement funds will be distributed throughout time. So 20% to local governments, 60% to your region, so your Region 19, 10% to an infrastructure fund. So this is money that will be given to regions or local governments who want to improve infrastructure in their treatment and recovery initiatives. And then the state government's getting 10%. So what we're doing with that, one of the things we're doing with that is we are doing a statewide prevention education campaign that you all will be able to use in addition to the work that you're doing. So we're looking forward to that. We should be starting that work here in the next few weeks. Just as a reminder, these are the allowable uses for opioid settlement funds. So prevention, harm reduction, treatment, criminal justice, recovery, and community leadership. So that's a lot. There's a lot of uses that you can fit into these bubbles. It's broad because we want you to be innovative and thoughtful. And all of the approved uses are available at the link at this slide. And again, I'll send these slides out so that you all can have a copy. Just a quick update on the timeline. We have sent out tens of millions of dollars already in the fourth quarter of 2022. So we're very excited that we were able to get the regions and the local governments their money as requested. We do have a new conference coming up, August 16th through 18th. Our last conference in August was a huge hit. So we're doing it again, but this time we'll be doing that in Montrose, Colorado. Should be easier for you to get to than coming to Denver, and certainly won't have to deal with huge parking issues. So we're excited for that. We will be asking everybody who received funds to report into our portal on September 15th of 2023. This will be the beginning of the dashboard outcomes that we're going to be tracking, and I'll talk about that in just a second. We are on track to receive new funding requests on September 15th. Every year we'll have amendments due on March 15th and new plans due on September 15th. And these plans are basically your funding requests. Ongoing technical assistance for regions and local governments. We're doing regional conferences. We do have a website that I'll show you in just a second, and you can always email us at opioids@coag.gov. We all monitor that inbox, and so we respond very quickly. The way I run the Office of Opioid Response Unit is that we are high on customer service and technical assistance. We do have a new resource page for you as well. So it has community resources. So if you have community members that give you a call and or email you and ask you, what do I do about my loved one who is facing this crisis, we do have resources there for you. We also have regional and local government resources on the same page. And then we do have our dashboard and other resources for you. This is what our resource page looks like. So all of the community resources are on the top. Feel free to send people there your resources as local governments will be in that second line. Wanted to just share with you, we did put together our dashboard. So currently, the dashboard shows us, what a region will get. So if you hover over the region that you're interested in, it'll pop up this box. And you can also now drill into looking at the funding request, the 2-year plans, any additional information, who's the primary contact there, so that anybody who's looking to get in touch with someone in your region knows how to do that. We also have information on the state and infrastructure share. These numbers are a little bit old. I don't have the updated numbers yet, so that'll be exciting to see those new numbers. And then we do have resources on our dashboard page as well. And again, the link is on these slides, so you can go in and check it out. You're welcome to link this website to your website if you want your constituents to be able to see what's going on. We also created this spreadsheet so that if you get a CORA request or somebody calls and says, hey, how much money did Region 19 get? You can look right there. 2.7 million is what they're allocated for this year. 16.8 over 18 years. And again, these numbers are going to update, but we felt like it was great to try to be as transparent as possible, especially when you have reporters and others interested in these this information. We do have a phase 2 coming out of our dashboard. This is, again, when we start seeing the reports on what the funds were actually spent for. And then phase 3, we're going to be working with CCI and CML and different regions and local governments to put together an outcomes dashboard so we can start really tracking how these settlement funds are working or not working in the different regions. And it'll just give us more education and help us know what to do ongoing with these settlement funds. Per the MOU that the local government signed, we do have to work with you all on this. We cannot require you to do something that's super punitive or super hard for your local governments, like say your fire department. If we wanted to get information from the fire department on your opioid response, we would have to check with you all to make sure that is something that your fire departments are able to provide. So again, the administrative burden should not outweigh the benefit because I'm a local government person working for the state. This is really important to me and I understand it's important to you. If you have questions, I'm happy to take those now. Otherwise, feel free to email me anytime. My contact information is there. And again, I've got a few other resources on the screen here for you.
Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions for Heidi at this time? And again, if there are any questions, there is an email, and I can also be a liaison as I serve on the Region 19 opioid committee as well. Okay? Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The next speaker is Commissioner Luis Lopez to give us an update from Las Animas County. Welcome, Commissioner Lopez.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for being here today. All the dignitaries, we appreciate you all coming down and traveling to be here with us today in our beautiful Pioneer Room here at Trinidad State College. Dr. Epper, thank you so much. We've heard this a few times today, Team Las Animas County, Team Trinidad, Team Unity. I'll start off with our county team. And they do multiple roles in Las Animas County with our staff, starting with Miss Brandy Bowman in the back there with our Road and Bridge. She is also Mr. Dorenkamp's right hand in the Road and Bridge for all of the projects that they have doing there and all of our county employees for Road and Bridge over there. And Paul Lucero, who is our administrative assistant, thank you for all you do. And the multiple roles she also plays as our backup emergency management, as well as assisting with multiple facets of our county. Christy Colberly, our finance director, thank you, Christy, for being here with us today. And all you do is also working on all the grants, along with Mr. Dorenkamp as well. Pam Nelson, our county attorney, she plays dual roles for Las Animas County, not just for the county commissioners, but she also for the Department of Human Services. So she does it all, including all of our overseeing and keeping us commissioners in line, keeping us out of trouble. And our right hand, Mr. Phil Dorenkamp, for everything he does. He also plays multiple roles with us, including being our Road and Bridge foreman, Road and Bridge superintendent, and our county administrator. So, Team Las Animas County, thank you guys for all you do for us. Speaking of that team, we worked very hard with Ms. Lucero a number of years ago in getting the hospital that she spoke of earlier in the $35 million renovation projects. At the time, the county owned the property, and we were able to work through that with our county attorney as well and the attorneys to get that done. So it was another project with DOLA, with all the other organizations that have come forward with that. And so I'll move forward with my report on Los Animas County. I'll start off with the front range passenger rail. I am, as Ray King said so earlier, I am a board member of council governments for the past 7 years now. And thank you, Ray, for all you've done. You kept the ship straight as our interim director for council of governments before we hired Ms. Oliver, so thank you for all you do. But I was appointed to the board of the front range passenger rail by the council of governments recently, about 8 months ago, maybe 9 months ago, and we had our first in-person work session. We've been having board meetings virtually, but we finally had a work session together and then a board meeting. And there's going to be a lot of ups and downs with this organization, but at the end of the two-day conferences, we came to a solution, and it looks like we're going to have the right path moving forward. Governor Polis's office was there. There was some funding that wasn't allocated through CDOT for the initial study of the rail. It was only for 170 miles of rail, which is going to be mainly the I-25 corridor up through the Front Range. We advocated to that, Sal Pace and myself, and also Weld County Commissioners, to look into getting more funding through CDOT to extend the study for the entire rail from the Wyoming border to the New Mexico border. We're going to advocate that happens for Los Animas County, along with Mayor Rico, that he did so diligently for us with the Southwest Chief Railway. He served on that board. There's no sense of having a front range passenger rail if it's not going to come to the rural areas of Los Animas County and up in Weld and Larimer County. So that is something that is going to be moving forward at this time. The multimodal station has been discussed locally. I brought that to the forefront at this meeting with CDOT, having representatives there. And unfortunately, they are not going to be as positive as we hope for down here, but I will keep advocating that we get that accomplished. It is not on the 5-year plan as now, but they are having conversations locally through the local TPR. But the folks that were at the state level there from CDOT said it's not so much in the near future of the next 5 years. But I will keep advocating for that, and hope the City Council will keep advocating for that, for this rail. We need this rail, in my opinion, for not now, for 50 years from now, for our children and our grandchildren. So I look forward to serving on this brand new board for years to come. And I thank you for having me on that. We also have various grants and that we are supporting right now for our forest restorations and our wildfire mitigation grant applications. And that includes Huerfano County, Los Animas County in this region with our watershed programs to protect North Lake, Monument Lake. They've already started the process over on the other side of the hill. I call that up over on Cuchara Pass, and we'll be moving forward hopefully soon. We recently had a meeting in Huerfano County with the U.S. Forest Service and our watershed conservancy boards. And we look forward to making sure Los Animas County and City of Trinidad watersheds are protected for years to come. We have a healing processing plant that has got their supplemental use permits to start operations in Los Animas County recently, out east, and I believe the Kim, Colorado area. And we look forward to seeing them come to fruition and producing some minimal jobs, but having an impact to Los Animas County and possibly some more severance taxes from to the Department of Local Affairs so we can bring back to our community. The nonprofit grant, which you voters approved 2 years ago in the help with our county staff that I mentioned earlier, is going to be now coming open for applications. You can reach us on the website, losanimascounty.net, or reach out to Mr. Dornkamp or Ms. Christy Coberly on how to move forward. It is $120,000 of allocations voted by you, the taxpayer, for nonprofits in our community. So I'm very proud of that to be going on for 2023. As Ms. Marshall mentioned earlier, we have some projects at our county airport. We're looking at this time of an asbestos and lead-based paint completion to be removal, but waiting on some groundsfield grant applications and funding. The taxiway and the ramp asphalt improvements are underway. We should have the remainder of them done by the end of 2023. There's been a paving project in between the hangars as we speak this past fall. And the industrial park initiative that we were hopefully entertaining a study to see what we can do out in our airport to make it more financially stable for our taxpayers, so as not to continue to be a loss of revenue to our taxpayer base. And we look forward to getting all the money we can from you there. Our courthouse, something we started 6.5 years ago. We have just, and I thank you, Tara, and everyone else at your office. This is the Tara Marshall Show today for the county updates. But we are so appreciative of this. We received $930,000 of funding for Stage 3 of a county courthouse restoration. Stage 1 was completed a few years ago. Stage 2 is now in the 95% completion area, including our district attorney's offices. Renovations and a bulletproof glass being put in. Mr. Solano, if you're online, hopefully that is completed soon for you. But the phase 3 will be the HVAC, and the county funds will be close to about $3 million in the renovations for total, I believe, for this. Our fairgrounds, another near and dear project to my heart. We started a number of years ago. Will also undergo some sort of grandstands abatement process for asbestos abatements. Our basketball court, which was so graciously committed $15,000 from New Alcohol. We thank you so much for that. That is part of the master plan, which will hopefully be unveiled soon. To the community, we have a study done and drawings done for community input, which we'll probably bring to the community within the next 6 months, I'm hoping. To get some feedback from the community on how we move forward in applying for more grants. So, through Tara Marshall. We're working with DOLA to potentially install also a solar array of power possibly for this facility. Our Scenic Highway of Legends grants, that was, I believe, completed, and the wayfinding signage and the placement of kiosks throughout the county up and down the Highway 12 is something that we've been working on. We've had some meetings up in the Primero School, was it last summer? Yes. And we had a nice attendance for that, for folks to come and bring us some information. Our Road and Bridge Department, again, without Mr. Dorenkamp and Ms. Bowman for their efforts in acquiring these grants, we've received County Road 13.0, $160,000 from DOLA, $150,000 from our Road and Bridge, and a $10,000 in-kind asphalt paving for segment road of County Road 24.6. DOLA, thank you, for $750,000. County match of $750,000 to be moving forward with that. One other program that I'd like to mention for Los Animas County is a ranch watch implemented by Sheriff Navarrete to protect our our landowners and our cattle ranchers and our producers and our farmers of their livestock and their equipment. There's been a big success with that in reduction of crime for our ranchers and our livestock farmers and ranchers in the community. And with help with Mr. Solano's office, we'll get those folks prosecuted and moving forward. I don't think I've forgotten anything for Los Animas County, but I'd like to thank you all and the City of Trinidad for working with us and getting these projects brought to fruition. May you all have a blessed day. Thank you.
One of the wonderful things, I had an opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. as I serve as the National Association of Counties Colorado representative, and I asked one of the staffers to put up the map of Colorado and then highlight Las Animas County. When I said Las Animas County was the largest county in the state of Colorado, it's like, well, what about population? We kind of like it that way. But one of the things with DOLA is we have enough miles to go to New York. Enough linear miles in Las Animas County. So you think about that. The largest county, we have a ton of financial responsibility, and I am so excited to bring Las Animas County to Washington. We're getting ready to go to Washington again here in the next couple of months, and again presenting information that is coming out of this group that is going to be landing on the hands of those senators and representatives and the doers in that big city. So thank you, Commissioner Luis Lopez. I appreciate your update. So now I want to invite the City of Trinidad lobbyist, Mr. Mike Bailey, to give us a couple of updates. I know he gets down and deep into the making of legislation, so please help me welcome Mr. Bailey.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here today. I am here because representing the City of Trinidad, because years ago they had the vision that they wanted not just more information about what's going on in the state legislative process, but they wanted to really affect legislation, not necessarily have it affect them, and do that in a positive way. And so we provide information to our city leadership. It's not only shared in venues like this, but with your own delegation to the legislature. But beyond that, to work with other interest groups and other legislators, whether it's urban, suburban, or rural, to tell the story about what's important here in Trinidad and Los Animas County. And most every presenter up here has talked about the budget, so I'm going to take a couple of minutes to talk about what we're seeing in the state budget and some of the other issues that we've been working on in the past and that I think will be important in this next session. There's a lot going on with the budget. If a legislator tells you that there isn't any money, I want you not to believe them. I want you to tell them that I came down and talked about even what the governor proposed yesterday, and that is an extra $120 million on top of the budget that was submitted on November 1 for tax credits for clean energy development, $70 million for additional spending for workforce development with a specific emphasis on healthcare and on technology workers. And so I've read a bill draft of that actually late last night, and so I know that's still in the works. That has bipartisan support, and I know that that is something that we're all going to want to pay attention to. An extra $300 million to implement the state water plan. There's a big conversation that many of you, especially our local elected officials, if you think folks were upset about plastic bags, wait till they see their property tax bills. And with the reassessment that's gone on and the temporary property tax reduction that the legislature did going away in about a year, property taxes are going to go up a lot. So the governor recognizes that. Yesterday he asked the Joint Budget Committee to put an extra $200 million in what he's calling property tax relief. That is to help keep people's property taxes lower and then backfilling some local government revenue loss in that space as well as school district loss in that space. And so that's going to be a very important conversation. There's folks that want to do a citizen initiative to permanently lower property tax without any kind of backfill mechanism. So in my world, in the hallways of the state legislature, this is one of the top conversations that is going on right now about what should property tax policy and those assessments look like. And so we'll be very involved in that. When you look at our state budget in 2022-23 budget year, even with all of the spending that we've talked about and the priorities of the things that have affected everyone in this room, there's still almost $2.5 billion of revenue above the REF-C cap. In 23 and 24, it's through a couple of weeks ago, that surplus looked like $1.53 billion, and in 2024-25, $1.37 billion. So what does that mean? That means that there's going to be conversations about not only getting that money back to the public in terms of their refund, and we received those $750 refunds late last year, but there are going to be people that want to have a conversation for both 2023 and 2024's ballot. Should we put that money all into K through 12 education, for example? Should we do more income or property tax reductions? Those types of things. And so we're going to see lots of conversations about what to do with that surplus and how to prioritize within that budget. Additionally, I think the thing that you're going to read about most in the newspaper in this next year is this whole conversation about housing and housing affordability and growth. I am hearing very clearly conversations about or concern that the state is slow in getting out all those federal dollars, that nearly $550 million from the federal government, on top of the nearly $200 million in state revenue, out to local governments and the private sector for housing. And so I think the legislature is feeling that heat and that frustration, and they're going to want to do something. I see that look in their eyes, and they're going to want to do something. And so they're going to they're talking about what I'm going to describe, in my own opinion, as zoning mandates. So mandates that say that you can't, as local elected officials, even if it's inconsistent with your comp plans, for example, you can't say we're not going to have multifamily. Or you can't have single-family zoning without the ability to do accessory dwelling units, those types of things. Or you can't have, you can't access state dollars or federal dollars unless you adopt some of these zoning, what I'll, again, in my words, describe as zoning mandates. Or you can't develop if the roadways and the infrastructure doesn't support it. But remember, on a parallel track, there's a conversation about curtailing, in this Tabor era, special and metro districts from functioning. So the legislature is going to have to figure out what it means, in my opinion, to what does it mean when growth pays its own way, and who's actually really paying that. And that's going to be a huge conversation. So all the local elected officials, it doesn't matter where you're from, what party affiliation you happen to have, this is going to be one of the top issues in this next legislature. One of the budget submittals the governor gave was, or asked for yesterday, was $15 million to manage growth. So when I walk around and I ask people what that means, it means the voters just passed Initiative 123. And that was extra money available through grants for affordable housing, but only if those local governments are approving those building permits and those development plans, for example, within 90 days. 90 days is a very tight window. It doesn't matter whether you're in Denver or Grand Junction or in Los Animas County. And so I think that this money is ultimately going to be available, that if a local government needs planner assistance to approve these types of things, that's the kind of expenditures that $15 million will go for, and something we're going to want to be very involved in. I get asked a lot about criminal justice reform and the effects of crime. I don't see a lot of changes to what has been previously passed related to sentencing reform. In fact, I hear conversations more about, for the things that weren't achieved on bail, bond, or pretrial reform, that maybe we should go back and revisit those conversations, ultimately with the goal of keeping people out of jail. So we know that crime doesn't recognize party affiliation, right? It goes everywhere. It can affect any of us. And so communities, regardless whether they're urban, suburban, or rural, are going to have to really be very vocal on their thoughts and feelings about criminal justice reform and what they would like to see in that space. Unlike in the past, where just sheriffs or chiefs kind of led the charge, local governments and community leaders are also going to need to lend their voice to that, in my opinion. Air quality. There's a big conversation about air quality, and if you get Denver television, they'll talk about regional haze, but the conversation is much larger and more broader than that. It includes sectors like the ag sector on how to reduce emissions into the air from agricultural operations. Conversations about a mandate to require electrification of oil and gas extraction, for example, and not relying on fossil fuels to power that type of extraction, going to be a big topic. It's been talked about in the hallways for years. It's going to be on the front burner in this next year, and we'll have quite a price tag to that. In addition to that, utilities across the state have done a lot with emission reductions. So in addition to agriculture and oil and gas operations, the next big emitter are vehicles. And so you're going to see more and more conversation about those mobile sources and what to do about that, and put funding into it. The governor, in those tax credits I talked about, it's not just about electrification, it's about different energy sources that are cleaner. And so that will have a ripple effect, not only in our local economy here in Los Animas County, but our friends at DOLA that get severance tax dollars. And I will remind you, as the former head of the Department of Local Affairs, that's not only that severance tax isn't just about mitigating the impact, but it's diversifying the economy of those industries in those communities. And now is the time. I know you've been very vigilant, but we need to continue to do that and be vocal and at the table there. I know there's been a concern in the last couple of years about how to fund like our new state park and those types of things. Those of you who will go to renew your vehicle registration, you're going to get asked if you want to opt into a state park pass or your motor vehicle registration, or if you want to opt out, so you'll want to watch for that. That's estimated to raise another $35 or so million for state parks in Colorado, and so that's an important policy for the governor that is being implemented this year. And then I will conclude with K through 12 funding. A big conversation about K through 12, not many folks feel like K through 12 is funded equitably or with enough money. And so there's a conversation about take the School Finance Act that you see today and maybe just reorganize the same dollars within that finance formula without new dollars. So I'm going to speak for me and say to our community leaders here today, that should send off alarms in rural Colorado. That means we just want to figure out a way to get more money to Denver or the metro area. And so your school districts, I know, will be vigilant on that, and we will certainly watch that thing, especially that issue, especially as it relates to the implementation of preschool and full-day kindergarten and all of those things, that school districts in Colorado are being asked to provide 18 months of services with 12 months worth of revenue on top of their fiscal condition that they face today. And I think this is another one of those human cries that you'll see coming from underneath the gold dome. And so with that, I appreciate the opportunity to be here and the leadership that the City Council of Trinidad has shown, and having folks like me kind of walk around the state capitol and say, yeah, but a lot, and we're going to continue to do that. So thank you for having me here today.
Well, who's ready for lunch, right? That was a great message. One thing I want also to highlight as we enter the 2023 legislative session, we all know that the House of Representatives is veto-proof, correct? I mean, that's one of those very important things that we need to be reminded of. So if the House decides to pass legislation, in a sense, the governor does not have the authority to veto them. So that is something that we are going to have to be, as communities, municipalities, and elected officials, come together, shoulder to shoulder, work together and make the message go all the way through. And Mike, thank you for all that, because we don't have to be lobbyists. You know, one of the questions that we often get at the county level is, how can I help? By being involved, by asking questions. And that's what we're doing here today. So I really appreciate that information. And with that, it gives me a great pleasure to invite City of Trinidad Mayor, Mr. Phil Rico, to take us home. And then after his presentation, we're going to be taking questions. And if you don't mind, stick around. We're going to have an opportunity to mingle with all of them. So please, Mayor, welcome. Thank you.
Well, good morning, and thank you all for being here. I'm going to start off with revitalization of Trinidad and the area. Something that we've been working on for the last several years. Trinidad, currently, we are on the move. There's a lot of things that have been happening, and a lot of things that will continue to happen. And it's because of our city council. We are working together very hard, very diligently to move this community forward in a positive way so that we can manage and prepare for the future. So we have a lot of people, not only city council, but our staff. We have you guys we have an excellent staff in the city that works hard every day in preparing everything that we have to do. As a matter of fact, sometimes most of the time, they're very well overworked. A few things that are going on right now is we're working on a river visioning process. Last year, we engaged with the Greenway Foundation to develop a river vision for the area from the I-25 corridor to Linden. But unfortunately, just recently, we ran into some obstacles. So we decided that we're going to narrow that vision. So it's going to be from I-25 to the Commercial Street Bridge. So that's the area that we're going to be concentrating on. One of the big areas that we've been talking about is broadband. That's been brought up a couple of times this session. This last fall, we put it on the ballot to terminate the Senate Bill 152, which will allow us to move forward with broadband. And in order to be able to do that, we had to eliminate 152. The City of Trinidad, through our ARPA funds that we received, we set aside $1 million to be able to use. It will allow us to leverage additional funding because we know it's going to cost more than $1 million. So it'll allow us to leverage additional funding for broadband in the future. So we feel that is really important. And I've been saying this for quite a while. Broadband currently is the cog in the wheel for any community that wants to move forward. So that is why we need to push forward really, really hard to try to establish good broadband services in our area. The other thing that we're working on is land acquisition. Currently, we are in negotiations for land acquisition for future projects. If we're going to move forward, we need to get additional land appropriated so that when people want to move into Trinidad or people want to establish businesses here, that we have that land available so that they can establish a business here, or they want to build homes here. So land acquisition is going to be very, very important as we move forward in the future. This last year, we set aside funds to allow the city and residents and businesses to partner in fixing sidewalks. And you look around town, some of the businesses and even some of the residences have worked together with us, and it's a 50-50 shared partnership. If somebody wants to fix the front of their sidewalks in front of their homes. That is different from the ADA that we're having to deal with, which is the corners, but that is completely different. The one big thing that everybody is wondering about is housing. And we know that the last couple of years, the mine they've struggled with being able to house some of their miners and some of their people that they bring in to find housing. So what we did is we decided to develop an incentive plan. City Council set aside $3 million for housing incentives. To date, we have expended just over $1 million to incentivize housing projects. This $1 million that we've expended to $1.7 million will yield approximately $23 million in housing projects going forward probably by the end of the year and possibly into the following year. There's actually a couple of entire housing projects that will be going up. Plus there's also some people that have applied in the downtown area that own buildings, but up on top of their buildings, there's some housing available that they're going to be renovating, so they'll also be available for rental down the road. So housing is really, really one of the areas that we wanted to highlight, and it's going to really, really help our housing, not only the mine, but we also have the potential of another industry coming into the community that's going to possibly employ approximately 90 people. So, let's say Trinidad is on the move. We have a lot of things going on, and we will have a lot more things going on in the future. Another thing that this also has been mentioned is the Fox West Theater. Urban Neighborhoods continues to make progress. 2 storefronts are now open, and we recently received, as was well noted, we got $600,000 from DOLA. DOLA, you guys do a heck of a job for this area. Thank you very, very much for everything that you guys do. Mr. Garcia has been he's been behind us all the way. Thank him for everything that you guys do. In October, we celebrated the grand opening of the Space Grade project. That was approximately a $20 million project. And there again, DOLA was part of it. So it was something that collectively we've done a lot of work together. Something that will be coming up in this year is been working on the last couple of years. People that come in on the Amtrak, they say, well, where can I wait? Or if I'm waiting to get on Amtrak, they're having to wait in their cars, or they take their own chairs or sit around and wait. And that's not good. So I've been bugged by a lot of different people. What can we do by getting something down there? So I've been working with Amtrak, been working with CDOT, as well as BNSF when I was on the board. And they have allocated $307,000 for a warming shelter, which they have actually finally agreed to do it. And hopefully, the last time I talked to somebody from Amtrak was just about 2-3 weeks ago. And they have, I guess, dried all of the ink on all the paperwork, and the money's going to be going, I think, to Amtrak, and they're going to hire someone to construct the building. So hopefully that'll happen this next year, or this year actually. Something that has not been mentioned today very much is criminal justice. Crime, as we know, not only in Trinidad but across the state, across the country, is exploding. There's problems. There's problems, people. We need to address it. A couple of months ago, I did a presentation at the Action 22 conference to everybody that was there. And as mayor, it really concerns me because when I was voted in, one of the things that I recognized and was told to me that the citizens being protected is actually priority above everything else. I take that very seriously. So we've been trying to do as much as we possibly can through our police department to getting them up to par with what they need to have as far as equipment, vehicles that they need to be able to do their job, and as well as hire additional police officers. I think as of right now, I think we are only short 1 police officer. So I think they're doing a really good job. If you look back at the recent crime statistics that was reported on a weekly basis, if you look at the number of calls that the city police had to do during just that Christmas period, it was like a 5 or 6 day period. There must have been 30 or 40 items that were calls that they had to respond to. And that's continuous. So we have a lot of problems, not only locally but at the state level. So we need to really work on trying to. We really need to try to work on trying to figure out a way. How do we reduce the crime? What can we do collectively as citizens, as well as city council, as well as our police departments, our sheriff's department, county commissioners, everybody across the board. It's very, very important. As you all know, as you travel toward, south to exit 11, it's now open. CDOT is now trying to tie up some loose ends to finish it up. To look at the beautiful new, try and figure a way around it. It's very, very different. So, but it's good to see it's done. We recently received $1.1 million from the omnibus legislation for local water projects, and that's something that we applied for. In April, we sent a letter to Senator Hickenlooper. He was very supportive about our application. Thank you. Thank the Senator for pushing that through for us. So he was very supportive of our application, and with efforts, we were successful. And those are just a few of the items that I want to cover today. But kind of in closing, I wanted to say this. When I started this roundtable in 2018, I felt that it was necessary to bring together speakers and a group of people that collectively, what we do as legislators, as county commissioners, as city council people, to come together and inform the community that we are working hard for you all the time, day after day, to make sure that we are doing what we have to do to make our community a good place to live in, a good place that we feel comfortable here. So it's really important that we all remember that you have a city council that is working hard for you day after day. And most of all, like I said, it's very important that we hear from all of our presenters, legislators, that we invite every year. Things change year after year. This year we brought Mr. Mike Beasley to do a presentation because he's our lobbyist. He has his finger on the pulse day after day after day as to what's happening at the state level. And as you heard from him, thank you, Mike, for all of your presentation. And he lets us know what is upcoming. One thing I wanted to mention, and I know that Ms. Garcia, you were saying about changing the time frame. That is what we're going to do. As a matter of fact, I have that in my presentation already. That in 2018, when this started, we had 2018 and 2019. We had this in December. And 2020 and 2021, COVID came around and it got everything all messed up. So I think what we're going to do is this year, we're probably going to go back and go back to probably a December time frame. One of the biggest reasons that right now, what's happening is that the state legislators, they all report to work when tomorrow or the next few days. So it's really pushing the time frame on it. So it's better if we go back to that December time frame where we'll have time to maybe even get some of the senators here or other people here that maybe can do some presentation. In closing, I want to say, Mr. Lopez, thank you for facilitating. I just want to thank the county for taking the lead this year. That's something that we decided to do way back, is that one year we would take the lead, next year the county would take the lead. So that is a working relationship that we established back in 2018, or actually 2020, I think we started doing that. So I think it's important that we continue to do that. So collectively, like I said, I know that we are making a difference by all working together. I also want to thank Phil Dorenkamp for the work that you did for trying to put this together. Anybody from the county that helped in that regard, in whatever you set up that you had to do. So thank you for doing that for us. So, like I said, thank you for being here, and we look forward to seeing you probably this next December again with a whole different group of people to present, probably some of the same people, maybe just different issues. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Rico. We are running at the noon hour. Those of you that have other engagements, please don't be restrained from if you have to attend to those meetings. We have a couple of questions that I really want to bring up. We have not many, probably 8 or 9 of them. So if you can, I'm going to read the question and they're addressed to specific individuals. Briefly respond to that. Since Mayor Rico just finished, let me begin by one of the questions, Mr. Mayor, is what is going on with Cougar Canyon? What can the city do to get this subdivision up and running and developed?
As anyone knows, those of us that have been around here for a long time, Cougar Canyon is a nightmare. It's a nightmare. The city of Trinidad has spent approximately $30,000 or $40,000 to date in attorney fees to figure out what the heck we can do. So about a year ago, we decided to look at it a little deeper. And what ended up happening is we were told that we would have to expend an additional $200,000 just in attorney's fees just to clear the air out there, because there are so many different corporations, LLCs, and on and on and on. We've had people that have come in and looked at it. Some people, big housing developers have looked at it. But when they look at the problems that exist with it, they back away. As Jody knows back there, the amount of money that is owed in the bond, to the taxes, to the special districts, to the county, It's probably close to, what, $35 million, $40 million? So at least that. So what company is going to come in and slap down $35 million before they even get started out there? So I think something needs to happen. One of the things is that between the special districts, the county, the bonds people, some of that needs to be abated, or all abated, in order to start from ground zero to be able to move that forward. Because like I said, no one is going to be able to come forward and plop down that $35 million. How this will all work, I don't know. The other thing is we as a city council, we are in charge of the metropolitan district. Two things that could possibly happen. We either have to set up or put in place a new board, a temporary board, and within 6 months, they have to have they actually have to go out and what is it, I think, anyway, they have to go out and seek a permanent board, is what they have to do. The problem is they need money to do that. I think there's only about $45,000 or $46,000 that they have to do that with. I don't think that's enough money, so I'm not sure where the funds are going to come from. The only other thing is to come up with a way to dissolve the metropolitan district. And I know that is something that has been done in other parts of the state, once or twice. We don't know what that would all involve. So, like I'm saying, the Cougar Canyon, it's a mess. And I don't really know what the answer is. We don't know what the answer is. We continue to search as a council. We've discussed it. We just don't know. We've had discussions with the county. They've done a little bit of work with some of the properties out there, but as a whole, it's very difficult.
Mr. Mayor, stay here. We have another one. We have what is the city's current and future look for ADU housing? I think you pretty much already addressed that, but highlight that, please.
Well, if you look around town, there are some areas that actually have ADUs already. And that is something that we're going to be looking at. Do we need to add additional ordinances into our codes to allow for additional ADUs? Do we allow ADUs in only certain areas? So those are things that we need to look at. So I'm not sure what the actual answer is until we sit down as a council and review our code, our comprehensive plan, to see what works and what makes sense.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Mayor. That's it. Okay. That's it. And when one of the highlights that we heard from Mike Beasley, indeed, is if the state decides to promulgate building codes, basically the minimums, then counties and municipalities will have to adhere to those. I have a question for Dr. Epper. Are you going to utilize any of the building trades students for the renovations in the building, as was done in the past with building trade students, rental housing for the college and so on? And I think you're pretty much already doing some of that. But Dr. Epper.
Thank you for that question, whoever submitted it. I'd like for everyone to know that we have completed one property thus far, the renovation of a house at 926 Stonewall. Our next property is at 920 Stonewall, right next to it. The house at 926 will be going on the market this month, later this month, I hope. If not, it'll be early February. It will have a deed restriction so that it must be sold to someone such that the home has to be owner occupied. So it won't be available for rental housing or for a second home or for short-term rental property. We're working with the AG's office right now on how that deed restriction is going to work, but right now that's what's holding up us putting that house on the market. We had an open house in December and invited the community to come out and see it. But it turned out really nice. At the present time, under the restrictions of the grant from the Attorney General's office, the properties that we're using, or that we're acquiring for the program, are meant to address blighted housing in the community, and so the students can only work on those properties. And the funds that are received when we sell the properties will be invested back into the program. Right now, we don't have a lot of students, so that's why it took us over a year to complete the first property. We've got another property that we'll be doing during the next year. So at this time, that's the plan, and but always happy to talk to you about other ideas.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ray, come up. This is, how can be a director of New Mexico healthcare system?
So,
Please,
Okay.
please go ahead.
All right, so as I said earlier, I was talking about Vision 22 and Vision 18, okay? Vision 22 is New Mexico, Vision 18 is Colorado. The problem that we have, and I don't know, Kim Lucero left, but anyway, she was speaking earlier about the problems that she have with the billing. And so those are the problems that we have with veterans. So in New Mexico, I would like to have some type of outreach with their director, healthcare director, because I'm the VSO. I have veterans from New Mexico that comes into Colorado. I have veterans that are in Colorado that are in the Colorado system that's not in New Mexico system. So how do we bridge that gap? Because the director in Eastern Colorado, I've met him 4 times. I do not even know who the director is in New Mexico. So that's the problem that I have. So all I want to do is bridge that gap so our veterans in Colorado, in Los Animas County, can be taken care of. Now, this isn't the only place. Every border county in Colorado has that same problem, and that's up in the southwestern slope. They have the same problems where they have veterans that are going into New Mexico using that system that's up in the, using La Plata area, Hinsdale area. So we have the same problem here. Same thing where in Cheyenne County area. Those guys are going into Kansas. So it's all of these border towns. So how do we bridge that gap? Or how do we get their director to come and meet with us? Because we are a big part of New Mexico's, that CBOC down in Raton. So that's my question. How can we fix that?
So I actually had a conversation with the director over the directors. Secretary McDonough went to the clinic in Colorado Springs. So I was able to talk to a couple of the higher ups in the VA themselves, and they know it's an issue. And then our office also knows it's an issue. We have a different southern border issue, I guess, but specifically veteran affairs. So this is a bridging the gap conversation that I think we need to continue to have. So thank you for bringing it up.
Okay, and there's one other thing. So same thing. So being that community care, we know the healthcare thing that's a big thing for veterans. Okay, we have facilities and we have providers who want to become providers in our community. Some have applied to get in, but it's like really hard for them to become community care network providers. And so we have an aging population here with veterans. Majority of the veterans here, they're Vietnam, Korean War. We have about 4 or 3 World War II veterans. So the traveling part, again, because we're in Vision 22, it's the same thing back with the healthcare. We're doing a lot of traveling. If we can get that community care network and they know who's in our network, who are network providers, you know, can they have them be seen right here in our own community instead of traveling? Because that's going to save on travel time, they're aging, and then just money-wise, they won't have to pay for travel pay. So those are the 2 main things that I think that I would like to see addressed, I believe, is to do it. So.
Thank you, Ray. This one, Mr. Sexton, this question is for you, sir. What is the update on the possibility of the solar, wind, geothermal power plant? How much gas will be produced in 2023? And then there's a follow-up question for the mine. I think, how is the mine reaching to hire employees? And then, of course, the production of coal for 2023. But Mr. Sexton?
Okay. I'll answer that question by what we're doing in the interim also. I've told the Chamber of Commerce that we would like nothing more than to put in a power plant here that was co-generated using wind, solar, geothermal, as well as the gas. We could use about, we've looked at the cost of putting in a roughly a 70 megawatt power plant, and the total funding for that would be in around $70 million. There are people who do want to finance power plants, but you really need a good natural gas backup supply to do that. What we are looking at doing, the process we're going through, is to utilize the fact that as a result of the methane that we are producing out of the basin, there is a great deal of methane that is no longer being liberated to the atmosphere from natural coal outcrops and from literally dozens, actually hundreds, but a dozen easily identifiable abandoned mines. They go back 100 plus years, from everything from when somebody was at the side of the road and had a coal outcrop on their property, and they mined the coal and they sold it to people passing by. And that's how people used to get their energy. Turns out those outcrops and those abandoned mines were, of course, never sealed to the atmosphere. So unlike today's mining, where I'm sure John will tell us all the really great safety measures that are in effect. And I've been down in that mine, not lately. I hit him up and asked him for an invite here for a tour, but and I promised to reciprocate one with him as well. Modern mining is very different from how this area historically developed, and so we have a lot of natural coal. We have a lot of natural methane gas seeps. And we can document, as a result of the Colorado Oil and Gas Commission's own data, that we have reduced emissions, natural emissions, by about 97% over the 25 years that Evergreen Pioneer and Evergreen have been operating here, as well as other producers in the area. So my goal is to get the community support to get recognition for this, get the gas designated with a green and through the green initiatives, but it's going to require we go through a process with the Public Utilities Commission to get that designation under a prior Senate bill that was signed into law a couple years ago. I was waiting for the utilities like Xcel and Atmos Energy to pave the way for us, and they are on the verge of doing that and getting some green gas initiatives. But we need to get the gas in order to make this an efficient process. We need to get a green designation for the gas, which I believe is completely deserved. Once we do that, then we'll be in a position to put type of power plant in that again is co-generated using wind, solar, or geothermal. I happen to particularly like geothermal because the Raton Basin has the highest geothermal gradient of any producing oil and gas basin in the state, and, which is terrific. That's something we should definitely be trying to find a way to utilize. In the meantime, we are experimenting with using solar for powering some of our water, for some of the pumps that we use to pump the water up and to liberate the gas. And we put in 3 last year, and the results appear to be very good, and we're looking at putting quite a few more in and looking at what's the right timing to do that. But we think it makes a lot of sense to use wind and solar as well as geothermal to augment our operations. We're doing everything we can and not just limiting it to the power plant. But and anyone who's ever put in a power plant, this is a long-winded answer to say it takes a long time to get a power plant in, but with the green initiatives, we think we can shortcut a lot of the regulatory process and make it happen sooner rather than later. And I think everyone acknowledges that this is an area that would, since there's no real major electric power generation between roughly Albuquerque and Pueblo, this would be a very good area to put it in and supplement the grid. So we're very interested, and we haven't given up. We just have to work our way through the regulatory process.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. The question for the mine, John, was how are you reaching out to the new hires? And I do believe, and I don't pretend to respond for you, but I believe we have Ms. Kayla Torres.
Answer that best for
the local employees.
new hires.
Yeah, we currently do have recruitment companies that have been coming down to training our local greenhouse. We have had a few job fairs down at the Trinidad office. We have worked with the Workforce Center who have facilitated that for us, so we're appreciative for them. So yeah, please reach out to either us at the office or through the Workforce Center to any local that is interested in working at the mine.
Thank you. And to be very respectful of everyone's time, I know we're running way over time. Mike, briefly, there's a question here. How is property tax going to be raised faced with Tabor?
So, So the question about property taxes is from a state perspective. There's concern that with some of the language in the state constitution and the way property taxes work in Colorado, that it's making it an impediment to folks owning affordable housing. And so the legislature last session lowered temporarily property tax for 2 years in order to get us through this inflationary time, this expensive time that we're all living. That temporary increase is going to come back to where it was a couple of years ago. And during that time, we've also had a reassessment. So you're going to start to see your property tax bills go to where they should have been over the last couple of years, which will be an increase. So the question is, should property taxes be permanently cut as a matter of statewide policy? That's the first question. And if so, should some of those holes that are created in a local government budget, whether it's a county or a city or a school district or a special district, for example, should the state put more money into that to backfill that hole, at least for a short period of time, or more permanent? And so that's what the legislature will be talking about. And so they've reduced it temporarily. They're looking at referring measures to the ballot, both in 23 and 24, related not just to property tax, but Tabor overall. So this whole issue of taxation is going to continue to be one that we'll want to keep an eye on. That help?
Thank you, sir. Yes. Thank you. This may be, it has Chronicle News, but I think it probably is being asked by the Chronicle News. I'm not certain.
For the mayor.
For the mayor. Okay. What obstacles does the River Vision project come up against, and how does that play into the reduction of scope of the River Vision project?
Well, the whole issue as far as the obstacle had to do with working with the irrigators and the dam area, because they are doing some work there. So that's why we are repositioning or revisioning the area between Commercial Street and the I-295 corridor. And that's in working with the Greenway Foundation. What they're going to be doing is developing is looking at what we can do, not doing anything with the river itself, but with the banks. That is what we are more interested in. So that it will allow not only tourists to be able to come to the city of Trinidad and see a nice river area developed, but also someplace where the citizens can go and spend the day, stick their feet in the river if they want to. As we know, there's good fishing down there now. So developing that additional corridor is going to be the major component that we're trying to do.
Thank you, Mayor. And once again, those were the questions. Gracefully, Mr. Paul had a question, and we're going to table that question again. He's the owner of the Eckhart School building, and he's looking for opportunity to continue to occupy that space, opportunities for grants, opportunities for funding and partnerships and collaboration. So on behalf of Los Animas County, Team Los Animas County, my fellow county commissioners, mayor, representatives, dignitaries, all of you that traveled to Trinidad for this event, I want to say thank you so much. May all of you have a wonderful, blessed 2023. Happy New Year, and thank you for attending this Roundtable legislative session. Thank you so much.
By the way, Ray was talking about we wondered if that